may be helpful to know that other people are not seeing you as you are seeing you. As I see myself, I am aware of some of my strong points. And there's good reason for what might be considered my weak points. They're justified in some way. Else, of course, I would have corrected them. But other people don't see me the same way. They don't recognize all the points that I think I'm strong on, and they certainly blame me for many of the points that I'm weak on. And we tend to do the same. You know, it's said that if I did something, it was because of so-and-so. If he did something, it's because he's a bad boy. Oh, that's not right. It's not good like that. You know, we don't search for some external explanation as to why he behaved the way he did, other than the fact he's in the wrong and shouldn't do it. That's not right. But we don't apply the same rigor to ourselves. We know why we didn't do certain things that were right, and there was a good reason for it. It was justified. Do you see, in that sense, we are not humble. We do not have a good measure of humility at all. You have an extremely good record, but then you do something wrong to me. Oh, well, I've changed my view. You know, I've let that fault wipe out most of, at one blow, the good record. Well, nobody can live up to this, because even if they did everything right, you wouldn't see everything they did as right, and therefore for the thing that you see that they do wrong, you're downgrading them drastically, out of all proportion to all the blessing they've been to you. In other words, in some sense, our own lack of humility blinds us to our judgmental writing people off left, right, and center. In other words, the most recent experience, which happens to be a fault, say, is dominating our behavior and our feelings and our reaction and possibly even our actual actions towards them. When we appreciate how much tolerance we want them to have for the faults that they perceive that we have, then we're reminded of how we should be to them. In that sense, we forgive one another, even though there's been no repentance, of course, either because the other person doesn't know it's a fault, or because they don't know that this is your view. So forgiveness is an attitude that wants to embrace despite transitory circumstances. Now you could say, well, when there's a whole series of transitory circumstances and they're all negative, then we should classify people accordingly. And that's true as regards expected behavior. I mean, if a person's constantly dishonest, it's wise to expect that they may be in the future. But if there's one exception, you think, oh, that's unusual. I wonder what that's about. But you refuse to budge from your established position that you trust them. Okay? You may be now sensitive to any other exceptions. In a sense, you start to look for trouble. But you resist that like the plague. There's a great desire in you to trust them, because they've always been trustworthy in the past. If you get too much continuous exception, then of course you're going to have to shift your ground a bit. And so it is too with our relationship with God. When He allows something that we think shouldn't have happened, do we blame Him for it? Or do we say, "You're my God, everything I have is because of you. I've probably got this wrong, and you're probably right. Love you, Dad. Thank you for this difficulty. Love you. My desire is to love and trust you with all my heart. You're my Dad. Thank you, Dad.